And now getting to the actual topic of today, which is telling an authentic and compelling transformation story. We would just like to share with you today what we mean by this, why it may be important, and how we go about it. So, what do we mean by a transformation story? Firstly, what do we mean by transformation? So, in our minds, transformation is beyond the BEE legislation, like I've said. So, we really mean socioeconomic transformation. And we know the word transformation means different things to different people. But what we're talking about here is what was brought about, the change that was brought about through socioeconomic transformation. So, leaning into the need for a transformation in our country, leaning into the BEE legislation and the reason that that was brought in, but looking way beyond the scorecard and the compliance aspects of the scorecard. So, like I said, beyond the scorecard, incorporating diversity, equity, and inclusion. So, what are we doing as a business to really engage our employees, to build a culture that is where everybody can thrive, where everybody feels like they belong? And as you know, this is very much integrated into the socioeconomic transformation aspect. We also look at ESG and ESG embedment and how that's integrated with transformation. And then we really want to tell stories about positive change. So when we talk transformation, we're looking for positive change that has been brought about by initiatives and spend and time and effort over the years that you may have embarked on. And we're also looking for organizational as well as societal impact. So through the years, implementing BEE or starting out with BEE and all the initiatives that you may have had that has grown with time, are you able to demonstrate organizational as well as societal impact? And if you're able to, are you telling that story? And are you telling it in a compelling way? And then lastly, shared value. So we look for, like I said, organizational and societal impact, but also organizational and societal benefit. And that's where we cast the lens of shared value. So story, what do we mean by the word story? I think what we don't mean is it's not a fable, it's not made up. It is when your impact aspirations are being realized, have been realized, or maybe not yet. And we'll tell you a little bit more what we mean when we say not yet. Your objectives and targets are being met or not yet. And it is based on factual information and evidence. So whatever we put down into a story needs to be substantiated by the required facts and evidence. And we're able to substantiate everything that is put down. And then, does it relate to your theory of change? So your theory of change, if you've got a theory of change already designed, then you know that is already the start of your storytelling. And we just need to plug in the gaps to be able to complete that story. But most importantly, it's an authentic narrative. It's a narrative that is firstly factual, but it's something that everybody can be proud of, everybody is aligned on. And it is a one story, one voice. And the reason we say that is because we've worked with clients before that had pieces of their stories all over the place, and it was crafted by different people, but there was disjointedness. So what we try to aim at is that there's one story that every aspect of the business, every business division, business unit, every stakeholder of the business gets to tell, but also gets to hear. So why tell a transformation story? Over and above everything else, it really is meant to inspire and to motivate all stakeholders within your business. And just leaning on stakeholders is firstly, internally, it is meant to align and manage internal perception. I don't think I need to tell you about the importance of an employee value proposition or the importance of how a company is seen externally, and what employees are looking for when they join companies. So it really is down to employee attraction, but also retention. I think over the past few years and post the COVID pandemic, it's becoming more and more apparent that people are looking for meaning and purpose in their lives, and that work is not just work. I mean, work is just work. But if your work can bring you meaning and purpose, and if you feel you are with a company that gives you that, then that's already aligning to retention requirements. And then obviously it informs, it reinforces, it builds company culture as well as company values. It's an opportunity to align everyone on the company values and purpose. And, undoubtedly, if you have motivated, inspired employees, it will naturally lead into productivity, which then leads into profitability and sustainability for the business. And then there's also the external perceptions, and you can use your story to really reinforce or build your brand and reputation externally. It will also be used to enhance public perception, client perception, as well as government or regulator perceptions, and basically all interested and affected external stakeholders. But also importantly, it is an opportunity for you to celebrate and leverage the successes that you've had over the years. I mean, some of our clients get so busy with meeting the compliance requirements of the BEE scorecard and doing that on an annual basis that they sometimes forget to pause and just reflect on what has happened over the past however many years that they've been implementing this, and really celebrate the success stories and then build off and leverage off those success stories that they've had. It is also an opportunity to demonstrate widely to a wider audience your performance as well as your progress against your stated objectives and targets for transformation. And it is an opportunity to reinforce your impact strategy. So if you've set out over a few years to really create positive impact in society and within the organization and have set objectives around this, then it is an opportunity to reinforce that and align everyone on where you're going and why it is that you need to do what you need to do. It is also an opportunity to review, reframe, and refresh your strategies. So sometimes we need to see things in black and white very clearly to be able to measure our progress, but then it may also uncover some gaps or some opportunities to improve, and so it's an opportunity to refresh your strategy. And lastly, but not least, it is also to develop collateral for use in marketing and communications campaigns. So just the elements of our transformation story, the way we go about it is we generally start with an executive summary, and that is usually a 3 to 4 page document. It will include a summary of all of your initiatives, your objectives, your strategy, etc. It will include a timeline of what you've achieved over the years with some infographics. If you would like to zoom in on ownership and share your story around your ownership structure and the different shareholders that you have, then we're able to bring that in. But bear in mind, we can't bring in the level of detail of each and every element in an executive summary. So there is the opportunity also to expand that to tell your full story, which could very easily be a 20-page transformation brochure. In fact, we've just submitted one for a client that ended up being 21 pages. But that's really going into detail of each element and beyond the scorecard, information on their diversity, equity, and inclusion, information and interviews with graduates that started and that have been promoted through the years. So that's a very detailed story. With regards to visual stories, so this is where we bring in infographics, we bring in photos of your projects, your initiatives, your employees, interviews with them. And like I just mentioned, a full story could easily be 21 pages, but it will include articles, it will include interviews, it will include content around impact, as well as future aspirations. So it's an opportunity to, state where you're at now, but what you believe still needs to be done and what your objectives are going forward. We can include translation into other South African languages. We tend to include a frequently asked questions page if that is necessary for you. That usually comes in if you want to use the story externally. So external stakeholders may have questions that your internal stakeholders already know the answers to. And after the whole story brochure that I'm talking about has been developed, we can also offer you some videos. So the content, would be available, and we can offer you professionally animated, professionally developed videos that you can then use internally and externally. So you can actually have snippets of your story that you would want to play for your stakeholders internally and externally. We include virtual reality here because we also have VR specialists within our group. And sometimes after a client has developed this beautiful transformation story brochure, they want to then socialize it in the business and distribute it, cascade it within the business. But a nice innovative way of interacting with that story is through VR, and it can be done on your PC or in person. So we can tell you more about that. And then lastly, we also offer engagements, and this is really focus groups to socialize the story, but also to get input, to provide platforms for Q&A, and just ensuring that the story lands and that feedback loops are closed. Okay, so that's some of the elements of the way we approach it. I just would like to share with you now our high-level process of how we go about developing the story. We obviously, after our scoping meeting and acceptance of proposal, etc., we will have a contextualization and a kickoff meeting with all relevant internal stakeholders. We like to suggest, especially if it's a big organization with lots of information from different parts of the organization, we recommend a project steering committee, and this committee will have representation from the different business divisions as well as communications. But it's just an opportunity to have a group of people that you can check in with on a regular basis throughout the process. So the first real step is for us to do desktop research and to review the information that you provide. The information that you provide will be typically your BE information, your initiatives across the scorecard, and everything that you have done that doesn't fit under any of those elements. So diversity, equity, and inclusion, culture initiatives, employee engagement initiatives, ESG, broadly looking at the business from a socioeconomic angle. And then we also allow time for internal engagements, and that is where we do either one-on-one or small group interviews with selected internal stakeholders that are able to give us more information or contextualize things better from the information that we've received. We may still have questions, need clarity, etc. And so we've allowed time to actually speak to people, but also during this process to get a sense of what is important, what is it that you would like to convey from the bits of information that we've received. And post that, we will have a high-level storyboard, so we'll put everything together and present back to the business, get a sense of what's landing, what's not landing, where the focus areas should be, where we perhaps need more information. We will do it at that step in time. And then we move into crafting the story. And here we start with storylines. And storylines, there's just 3 examples here, but typically they'll be around background to the company, context, where the company started, where you find yourselves now, what did the board look like over a 10-year period, for example, how that has evolved, how that has become more diverse, hopefully. But also, from a shareholder perspective, how has that evolved? The different legislations that came in and your responses to the different legislation over, let's say, a 10-year period. And then we will have to write up the technical aspects, and being BEE professionals, if there's ownership transactions, etc., we're able to do that with ease. And then we'll have to write up the impact storyline. So through all of your different initiatives, what was the impact that was achieved? And for impact, we lean very heavily on if you have ICPRs or information from your beneficiaries, from your first-line beneficiaries. And if we need to then dig deeper and get that information, we're able to do that as well. And then the next step is coming back to the business, internal testing and alignment with what we've crafted thus far, your inputs, your feedback. And then we move into design and sub-editing. And this is where we bring in our design professionals that I'll tell you about a little bit now. And this is where we move into the actual visual representation of the story in a booklet or a brochure format. Come back to the business to do testing, get feedback, and then finally it's client review and approval. So now I would just like to share with you what it could typically look like. So this is just some visual representation of a full story example. And remember, you don't need to go for a full story. You may want to go just for 3 or 4 pages. But a full story will typically have a nice cover page. We'll have a table of contents, as you can see here. Obviously bringing in pictures from the business so that it's authentic. And then an executive summary, as you can see here. We allow for, graphical representation, a lot of visual effects with tables, presenting data in an understandable and easy to read format. This is the timeline I was talking about, could typically look like this, but where it plots your company's transformation journey over the years. So you can see lots of infographics, tables, information, a lot of information and information over the years. We talk through context, we talk through impact, obviously, and all of this is professionally designed. So in our group, we have individuals that can help us with this. This is the frequently asked questions page that I spoke to you about. And so why us, right? Because there are communication companies out there, we know that. You also have internal communication specialists. So why us? What can we offer you? So we can offer you a seasoned team of professionals that have worked on empowerment transactions and transformation strategies across industries in the large listed and unlisted space, and we continue to do so. So we also have the ability, the knowledge, and the expertise to make sense of and integrate many different facets of transformation and empowerment, such as BE, ESG, diversity, equity, and inclusion. We incorporate the SDGs and the NDP goals into our strategies. So we're able to have a holistic bird's eye view of what empowerment and transformation really means. And so we're able to sift out the real stories and the gems, that you may be sitting with and showcase that. We're also able to provide an external lens to objectively consider the information that you share with us so that we can ensure that it is accurate, it is factual, whatever gets published can be substantiated. And we're able to challenge you and ask you questions around, what else you may have. We're also able to show you where there may be gaps and where there may be opportunities to improve even further. As I mentioned, we have an established team of content developers and editors, designers, specialists in virtual reality, as well as video animators and production specialists that can navigate the CI requirements of organizations. We work closely with the company's communications team and other relevant stakeholders, so we do not replace your internal comms team. We work side by side with them to get the story told. We do have project management capabilities, so we can work independently as well as engage with internal and external stakeholders and leadership when required. And lastly, we just have a real love for empowerment and learning through storytelling. These are just some of our implementing partners. Multi-Dimensions is the company we use to actually produce that end result that you saw, that brochure. Wolf and Halo helps us with our video and animation production. Relative Media is a media house that we can tap into if we need even more advanced video production. Six Capitals is our ESG advisory team. And then Tailspin is our virtual reality service provider. So thank you, everyone.